Everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a 6-game NBA slate for you. Before I get started, can you smash that like and subscribe button? This slate starts at 6 p.m. today. It is an interesting slate as we have a lot of injury reports. Most of the games have very similar totals. There's one game that's under 230 total points, and that's Memphis and Phoenix. All the other games are right in that 235 to 239 range, so that is definitely an interesting thing for the slate. Though like I said, we do have a ton of injuries, so let's get into the injury report here. For the Hawks, Hunter is out. For the Magic, Bitized, Fultz, Black, and Carter Jr. are questionable, and Franz Wagner, Isaac, and Ingles are out. Lots of injuries for the Magic there. For the Pelicans, Zion is questionable and Alvarado is out. For the Kings, Lyles is questionable. For the Mavericks, Doncic is questionable, Williams is questionable, Lively is doubtful, and Exum is out. For the Pistons, Stewart is out. For the Grizzlies, Morant and Williams are both questionable. Rose and Gilliard are out. For the Suns, Durant is questionable, Gordon is questionable, and Bobo is out. And for the Raptors, Trent Jr. is questionable. For the Golden State Warriors, Green is out, Paul is out, and Kuminga is questionable. Keep in mind that there's two early games and there is a late game at 10 that are not included on the slate, so do keep that in mind. So anyhow, let's get into our top plays here. I have a couple of core plays here, and Paulo Banchero, Nikola Jokic, and Carl Anthony Towns. We'll look at Banchero first here. Banchero has been playing very well lately. Since he's been on an extremely good pace for the last about 2.5 weeks. Since December 21st, he's had 5 straight games over 50 fantasy points. The matchup here is also great, and um, he has also had a ton of usage with all the injuries for the team. I expect him to have a lot of upside in this matchup, especially against, because it's Atlanta who doesn't play much defense. Now, his price has risen a lot, but he's still a viable, great option on the slate. Looking at Carl Towns, he can also play center if you don't want to use Jokic, which is definitely understandable because of Jokic's price. But he can also play at the power forward position. Um, he has played very well lately. His price is just too cheap. He had a few game stretch where he had 3 games where he didn't play very well, but it seems like that's behind him, and his price is just too cheap to ignore today. He's been a solid play the last couple games due to the price drop, and he's definitely a great option on this slate. He is a core play for me as I think he's going to have a 40 plus fantasy point game, and right now he only needs 37 to pay off at this price. Looking at Joker, Joker has been on an absolute tear all season long, and he's got a favorable matchup against Detroit. The question here is if they blow them out or not. That's the only game that has that risk, really. And that is the only way you can really slow him down is just to get ahead so quick that he doesn't have time to score all the crazy amount of fantasy points. But that said, he has a great upside potential in every game he plays, so he's definitely worth a look. And he is very worth a look today, especially if a lot of value opens up with all the options here. So let's look at Anthony Edwards for Minnesota. Now, Anthony has played very well throughout the season. Uh, he has been 11 straight games over 5x. In the last 11 games, he's been over 5x at this price point in 10 of them, which was the only one he wasn't was the last game against Houston, but that was partially due to them blowing out Houston. I expect him to have a huge game here and be a really solid option. Now, if you want to go a contrarian route and go away from Edwards, you can go with Jamal Murray, who has played very well throughout the year. He's been a little bit inconsistent, and his price is up though. But he's been solid lately, and he's had a really good stretch since the mid-December. I think his price being up a little bit makes him a little bit harder to roster, but he's still worth a look, as he's still a favorable matchup and things like that. The only other risk there is the blowout risk, obviously. Um, Trae Young is in play for Atlanta. Now, Trae has played extremely well, with the exception of the Indiana game where they got blown out, but this shouldn't be similar to that. This should be a game more traditional where he has, 35 plus minutes. He'll get over 45 fantasy points. The question is if he'll get over 55. And so he's in a pretty good spot here. His price is still pretty fair, so he's definitely worth a look. Not a must play, but he's definitely a viable option on the slate. Looking at Aaron Gordon, he does have favorable metrics for this game against Detroit. Now he's a guy that isn't very consistent. He definitely has highs and lows. Obviously, his ceiling is super high and his floor is very low, so he is squarely a GPP play today. But he definitely has some potential and is worth a look. I'm gonna go through each team real quick and just kind of give you my views on each of them now, and kind of just, or at least each game rather, and tell you what I think about the potential for injuries and stuff. So for the Pelicans Sacramento game, the Pelicans are the only ones that have some questionable tags, and that being Zion. If Zion is missing, if he gets ruled out, that would give a boost to pretty much everybody on their team. Uh, that does get minutes, and so that would definitely open up some value with Murphy and um, see here, Murphy, Nance, Marshall, and Jones. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see how that gets played out, but he definitely has some potential there. For Atlanta, Hunter remains out, and that does give a little bit of a boost to Bogdanovich, Bay, and Okongwu, but their prices have come up a little bit. Same for Jalen Johnson, his prices come up, and this matchup isn't perfect for that. Looking at Orlando, we have all sorts of questionable tags here. Obviously, if any of these guys get ruled out, then Martise Wagner, Okiki would get a boost. Suggs and Anthony would obviously get some boosts as well. There's just a lot of questionable tags there, but Banchero is definitely a great play on the slate. Looking at Minnesota, there's no injuries there. For Dallas, obviously, if Doncic gets ruled out, then Hardaway Jr. and Kyrie Irving would become very interesting options, as well as some of the value plays like Hardy. Though it is a little bit of a risky matchup, I do think it's a viable. If these guys get ruled out, then there's going to be some potential there. Then we're going to look at Detroit and Dallas, or sorry, in Denver. Detroit, obviously, with Stewart out, that does give a boost to Duran, but he has a really tough matchup against Denver, so I don't really like much from Detroit today because of their matchup against Denver. Denver is full strength as well. Looking at Memphis, if Morant was to miss, Smart would get a nice little boost. No, he's not a must play by any stretch, even if Morant is out, as he tends to have a streakiness to him, but he'd have some capability today. Looking at Phoenix, obviously if Durant misses, that would give a boost to Booker, Beal, and Nurkic. And if Gordon was to miss, then Allen and Okiki would probably get a little bit of a boost. So, looking at the last game on the slate, Toronto and Golden State Warriors, obviously Trent Jr. doesn't play enough minutes really to uh, make much of a difference to fantasy, and everybody seems a little bit pricey there. As for the Warriors, Chris Paul is out today, so that should give a little bit of a boost to Curry getting a little bit more minutes, as well as Klay Thompson. I think they'll probably play a little bit shorter. I still don't think this is going to be a good fantasy game to target, for Golden State, but they definitely have some potential. Obviously, with Green and if Kuminga gets out, then that could give a boost to Sarek and Looney, but I still think that they're kind of risky on the slate. So, with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below, and have a nice day, guys.